Hello, sportsmen. Last week, I promised to tip over a beehive this week and get into some controversy. We're going to start off with some red flags, flags from ice fishing tip-ups. Matt Radzilowski will show us how various styles work, their pros and cons. Then we'll tip over the beehive on deer baiting with an interesting perspective from a controversial sportsman, Uncle Ted Nugent. You stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost, waving the red flag for practical sportsmen.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
We gotta be close. Here comes the sinker.
Oh, ho. Oh, oh. Well, it looks like a big one to me.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
Now, working its head through here.
Yeah.
Oh. Now we got its tail.
He'll back.
You're going up wrong way.
You're going about this all wrong, man.
Yes.
You're supposed to bring him up head first.
Head first.
Well, watch your line. You don't get back the reel.
Okay, here he comes. Here it comes.
Here we go.
There we go. Oh, wow.
Years ago, Bernie Hines from Houghton Lake showed me how to catch splake from Higgins Lake on a tip-up that Bernie made himself, especially designed for trout fishing in deep water. Tip-ups are an old method of hook and line fishing for catching fish through the ice. There are many variations in tip-up technology, but most of them share one thing in common, a red or orange flag that pops up when a fish pulls the line. These 4 tip-ups are the traditional design with the reel under the water. Cross sticks keep the tip-up from falling through the hole in the ice. The reel sits underwater and it's triggered to a flag on a spring. When the reel turns, the trigger releases the spring and the flag pops up. That's how all 4 of these work. Now, somebody got an idea of putting a tip-up reel inside a plastic bucket above the water. You push a shaft in to cock it. When the reel turns, the flag pops out the side to tell you a fish has grabbed the bait. Now, the bait is usually a minnow or a dead smelt on tip-up fishing. The most common way of hooking it is behind the dorsal fin so the bait fish can swim, or if it's dead, it looks like it might be swimming. Most tip-up fishermen are trying to catch northern pike. Some go for walleyes, but pike are the mainstay of tip-up fishing. Now, this bucket tip-up is called a sit-up, and it's just one innovation. Here's a tip-up with a flag that's set by a magnet, so when the reel turns, the magnetic attraction is broken with very little resistance, and the flag springs up. This is called a Pro Iceman, and it has a plastic shield that covers the ice fishing hole. This black shield is designed to keep the snow out and hopefully keeps the hole from freezing up. Mark Spice from Houghton Lake demonstrates a tip-up we've never seen before.
Well, you just set it like a normal tip-up. When it takes off, it'll just go up, and when you reel it up, you can just stick your hook right in the cork. Then it just folds right up into here. And everything's all inside, no lines get tangled up or nothing like that.
Okay, and the black is for what?
When the sun's shining like a day like today, supposedly it'll keep this hole thawed out and you won't have to come to keep on scraping the ice off of the hole.
A Mark's tip-up has the flag held down by a rotor that turns when the fish pulls line and rotates the spool. Very attractive style. Scott Bennard from Grand Rapids has a tip-up that he made himself.
Line comes out of their spool, goes in here so that it isn't exposed to the wind, right? So it doesn't freeze. I don't want it to freeze. I made it before and I had a problem with the line freezing up. So I put this PVC tubing in. It comes down to here, and then you just fish pulls, just sets the flag off.
Now, this is a pretty slick tip-up, especially considering Scott made it himself, modified other designs that he had seen, and solved the problem of line freeze-up with a plastic PVC pipe. Another unique design is the windlass, with a metal blade on a movable shaft that catches the wind to jig the bait. It has cold weather problems, though.
They freeze up when it gets really, the wind's blowing hard and it's cold like this, but we have some added things we didn't bring today that we take a board like the bottom on that one, a black board, and put a piece of tube through it, and then we put the line through that first so it's over the hole, covers the hole, and it's black, so if it's sunny out it keeps the hole unfrozen and your line doesn't freeze up as bad. And then once it don't get caught, this one the hole will freeze up and the ice will freeze on here.
Yeah.
And it'll stick. Eventually it'll freeze right to it and it won't move.
Freezing is the main problem with tip-ups. Here's a new design that works well in mild weather, but Mad Radzalowski found that the knot would catch on the ice that formed on the frame in extremely cold weather. The red flag is a good-looking design, though. Now we have a flag that's popped, and Steve Bebo from Houghton Lake takes off for it.
Let's see if we can get this one.
Is it turning?
Nope, it stopped. There it goes.
You get him?
Got him. Don't feel very big, but he got off right then.
He got off?
Right then, yep.
No kidding.
Darn it. I had him though.
Well, tip-ups aren't foolproof, but they are a fun way to catch fish because you don't have to hold a cold rod in your hand every minute. Scott Bennard saw a flag trip, and he's off and running.
What do you think?
What you're about to see is really odd. This pike zipped off most of the line, headed for the weeds, but for some reason stopped fighting.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Yeah. Beauty.
Well done, and that was on a homemade job, huh?
Yeah.
I thought you said the other ones work better.
Well, that pike, by all rights, should be flopping on the ice right now. That's what they usually do. But for some unexplained reason, it became extremely lethargic. It's a bummer when the camera is rolling. Well, tip-ups come in all styles. You can build a homemade one like this for just a few dollars. Then there's a new Pro Iceman with magnets. Now, we don't have a cost on that one. But we do have a cost on that classic windlass. That's up in the $17 to $18 range. That's the high end of tip-ups. The red flag will cost about $6 when it comes back on the market next fall. And you can always find a variety of traditional wooden designs for, well, $5 or so. If you know of any other practical tip-ups or plans to make them, let us know so we can include them on future shows. The question of law being considered by the Michigan DNR right now is, should hunting deer over bait be banned? Well, as I've learned in law school, our society makes something a crime in order to prevent a social harm. For example, if it's determined that there's a social harm caused by hunting deer over bait that is so great that it overshadows any individual right or benefit a person has to hunt over bait, then our government makes hunting deer over bait a crime, punishable by law. Now, that's getting serious. I asked you viewers who are opposed to hunting over bait to explain exactly what this social harm is from your perspective, and here are some of your answers. Now, Teddy Maybank from Sheboygan writes, I'm only 19 and I've always hunted with the use of bait, but I feel strongly towards banning the use of bait. State land is too overpopulated with hunters, and the baiting of deer only makes it harder for us to get a deer. The deer bed down all day and feed at night. Dave Garver from Farwell writes, I'm against the practice because I have found that in early fall, the people who own the property next to my farm buy semi-loads of bait and only feed the deer at this time. This pulls most of the deer in the area away from my farm over to these enormous bait piles. Once deer season is over and the baiting stops, the deer are back on my farm eating my crops. In my opinion, the hunting is not as good on my farm as it used to be before baiting was allowed. Barney Ellingson from Davison adds, the deer baiter has no respect for the deer or for other deer hunters who may wish not to bait by pulling deer away from their areas and disrupting the deer's habits. If a hunter needs this kind of thrill, he should check out the game farm shooting preserves, or better yet, pay a farmer to shoot his cow over a bale of hay. It might be a cheaper hunt with tastier meat, and it would leave the woods to the sportsman. And Jim Budd from Whitehall is another hunter who says baiting conflicts with his hunting style. Baiting all too often encourages violating, such as shooting deer from houses and hunting after hours. I am proud to be a natural move hunter. The forest is my classroom, and I am endlessly educated by the elusive whitetail. Every year, I'm amazed by people dumping bait within feet of scrapes. The bait piles change the natural move of the deer and hurt the natural move hunters. Even the bucks' bedding areas will change to a place where they can monitor traffic to the feed piles. Well, Gary DeLucia Sr. from Prudenville expresses, well, really what is the most common objection that I've heard about baiting, and that is this feeling of ownership that bait piles and deer blinds tend to create on state land. Baiting should be banned on public property because if you get near someone's bait pile, usually that person gets very hostile. They want to control the area. If you shoot a deer even a half-mile away, they think it was their animal. We feed deer in our backyard. Last year, a bow hunter built a tree blind 60 feet from my house, hunting over our feed pile. Okay, remember, this question of law that's under consideration is whether hunting deer over bait should be banned. So let's conclude here by squaring off on this issue. First, we'll take some emotional letters from anti-baiters who, well, they don't seem to have much tolerance for people who bait or even discussions on the subject. I have listened to your tripe supporting deer baiting for the past 2 weeks with increasing revulsion and disbelief. I submit to you that those bleeding hearts who congratulate themselves on baiting and all the wonderful benefits derived therefrom are magnificent, pompous, immoral hypocrites. Your coverage of this issue so far is not high-minded nor responsible journalism. It is rather the very essence of mongering and commercialism. You are providing the anti-hunting minority with nearly limitless ammunition if they only knew and could agree on how to use it. And if that isn't enough, try these unsigned messages that came over the fax. Fred, why do you lie? You said you would be open-minded on this baiting issue. Now all of a sudden you are for it 100%. By the way, your show, I have to start the deletions at this point. And it's hard to believe that you should have a public television program and you support baiting. Shouldn't you not have a biased opinion? Do you realize you're making a bad name for yourself? Guys in my hunting club hate you. So, you see, deer baiting is become a very emotional issue. And speaking of emotion, we're introducing a new segment on this program featuring conversations with Ted Nugent, a rock star who, well, to the surprise of many, has become quite an eloquent spokesman for Sportsman. Now, even if you don't like his style, and I've got to admit, for a few years there, I was kind of put off by his style myself, I have found that today, what he's saying is well worth considering. Here's what Ted Nugent has to say on deer baiting. If Fred Bear were here with us today, and we said, Fred, we got baiting up for grabs, they're going to ban it.
Well, first of all,
Fred isn't here, so you tell me what Fred would say.
And this discussion took place at Grouse Haven on more than one occasion, with Fred next to the stone fireplace and me right at his side, because I always scurried back every evening. I never killed anything at Grouse Haven because I made sure I was there, so I got the seat next to Fred every night. And I was blessed, I was privileged to be able to share a campfire with Fred for so many years. And guys like Bob Munger, just the greatest sportsman that ever lived. First of all, Fred would laugh as his shoulders would move. He always moved his shoulders. He's a great guy. And he would say, well, hell, we just had 26 hunters here at Grouse Haven. And we supplied bait for 26 hunters. And I just came in with my oxygen bottle here, and I sat in the tree stand over near next to Joe Engel's tree, and I hunted over bait. And back when we didn't use bait, we had about 11% success rate. And now that we're using bait, we have about 12% success rate. What's the big deal? Talking about a practical sportsman, Fred spoke from experience, he spoke with authority, and he spoke from a vast experience of running a camp for many, many hundreds, even maybe thousands of different people in his experiences. And he saw that the baiting issue when it comes to game management is moot. There is no debate.
So why did he have bait available? Did he prefer that people hunt over bait?
He preferred that people hunt, and he had it as an option. He had numbers of tree stands that were over rye fields. He had tree stands that were on trails going across the river there on the Grouse Haven grounds. He had tree stands over bait, some carrots, some sugar beets, some corn. He had tree stands in oak groves, active oak trees. He would locate the tree stands so guys would have the optimum opportunity to experience a wildlife encounter. Fred wanted each hunter to have an optimum opportunity for each individual to experience an optimum wildlife encounter. That's what hunting is. And bait enhances that. It does not affect the resource. Those who want to condemn baiting, those out there that will criticize baiting, those out there that would ban baiting, those out there that would restrict baiting, please take these words to heart. The best hunter, the most ethical hunter of all times, who fought so you and I would know what fair chase was, Fred Bear hunted over bait. He encouraged it, he condoned it, and he did it. So all of you who claim, and I've heard the testimony, those of you who claim that baiting is unsportsmanlike or unethical, you should be ashamed of yourself, because there's no one more sportsmanlike, and there's never been a more ethical hunter ever than Fred Bear. And if it was good enough for Fred Bear, my friends, it was good enough for all of us.
Nobody says it quite like Uncle Tedley. He'll be appearing on this show regularly with comments on a variety of subjects that primarily relate to defending the future of hunting. Now, next week, I'm going to feature letters that propose solutions to problems identified with deer baiting, solutions that regulate baiting rather than ban it altogether. If you have an idea for a solution, write to me. All hunters have a stake in this very important question of law. The big payoff of fishing and hunting, to my way of thinking, is the reward of a meal from the wild. The two recipes I'm going to show you are both incredible tasting and easy to prepare. Let's take the creamy small game casserole first. We originally prepared it with doves from Indiana, but any kind of small game or even chicken breasts would be great. Fill a kettle with water, add a tablespoon or two of sage, bring to a rolling boil, then take it off the stove. Drop in your small game meat for, just like 5 or 6 minutes to steep in the sage flavor. Then take the meat out, rub it with a little butter and salt and pepper, and put in a baking dish. Top this with 2 cans of mushroom soup and a can of mushrooms. Cover, bake for 30 minutes at 350. Hey, you won't believe the flavor. It's uncanny how good this tastes. The touch of sage really sets it off. Now, the other recipe is one that's a big hit with fish lovers. It's called Fish and Fries. Onetta Donders from Sears, Michigan says you can use French fries, but the tater tots are the big hit. Arrange fillets of your favorite fish in the bottom of a baking dish, just like we did with the small game. Cover with the frozen French fries or tater tots. Then you mix a can of cream of celery soup with 2/3 of a cup of milk, a 1/4 cup of mayo or Miracle Whip, and 1 teaspoon of curry powder. Now, I know that sounds like an unlikely combination, but pour this over the fish and the tater tots. Bake uncovered at 350 for 50 minutes until the contents are just bubbling and slightly browned. Onetta says mushroom soup is a good substitute for cream of celery soup. She says small coho salmon fillets are ideal, and this dish reheats well. There you go, 2 scrumptious but very easy recipes for fish and game. Both of them are ultimate rewards. The recipes we feature on The Practical Sportsman all come from our 1995 cookbook, which has the ingredients, instructions, and a tantalizing color photo of each of the 60 recipes for the year. This recipe book comes with a membership to the Practical Sportsman Club, a new membership package we've developed for 1995. In addition, we'll be putting out 4 publications this year. In March, the trophy book will list by area all of the trophies from our 1994 Fishing and Hunting Awards with analytical charts and graphs. The June source book will be a detailed guide to addresses and phone numbers of clubs, manufacturers, people, and organizations who serve sportsmen. September is Questions of Law, and December is the Plans and Product Guide. If you'd like to become an active Practical Sportsman, write to us for details on how to get all of the Practical Sportsman publications and benefits. Our address is Box 1001, Bath, Michigan 48808. We'll send you the information right away. This was it. This was the buck, a 19-pointer. Tex Dismuke from Almont got this. Go ahead, Tex. We want to hear the story one more time.
Well, it was kind of simple. I missed a spike opening day. I was sitting in my blind, had my gun laying down, had to reach all the way across, right over, and I actually had to shoot sideways rather than point straight on at it.
No kidding. So when you saw this buck, wasn't your heart kind of fluttering, or didn't you know it was this big?
Oh, yes. Looked like a walking tree.
Man, so you could see, what was it doing as it was walking? Was it have its head down,
well,
up?
Its head was up and down at all given time, and it looked like he was steady just looking right in there.
Was he looking at you? Or?
I don't think he ever seen me.
Man, so it was a fairly simple story on this.
Oh, it was simple.
How was your season this year?
I missed another good size one.
Anything close to this?
It wasn't nothing like this, but it's still been a good keeper.
The spot that you got this one in, is that where you hunted this year?
Exact same spot, and my partner that hunted along with me missed it too.
Is that right? So you're going to hunt that spot probably the rest of your life?
I hope so.
Okay. Well, good. This is the man, Tex Dismuke, with a 19-point buck. It was the biggest buck of the year in 1992. Made Boone and Crockett.
Oh, yes.
All
210 and 1/8.
210 and 1/8. Right here it is. Big round of applause for Tex. We're sure glad to have him down here. All of our trophy tales are videotaped at the Practical Sportsman Fishing and Hunting Awards banquets, which are coming up very soon. This year, we're having 3 banquets instead of our normal 2. The Hunting Awards is being split into 2 groups. On March 4th, the bow hunters, muzzle loaders, handgun, and rifle hunters will be honored for their big bucks, turkeys, bears, and elk. On March 18th, the banquet will honor shotgun hunters. About half of the award winners fall in each of these 2 groups. This year, the banquets will be at the Eagles Hall in Lansing. The capacity is about 325 people per banquet, which is why we had to split the hunting awards. Now, nobody's shorted on the meal. John McKenzie from Coils in Houghton Lake will serve up the buffet, which includes carved beef, roasted chicken, lasagna, and all the accoutrements. Those are for the Hunting Awards banquets in March and the Fishing Awards on April 1st. We have less than 90 tickets available for March 4th, so if you're interested, don't delay.
You guys hungry? Or?
We're shoveling it on. We're starving to death there.
If you're a deer, you have got to love the weather we've had in Michigan. It's been terrible for ice fishermen and snowmobilers and cross-country skiers and rabbit hunters, but the deer have had it really easy. We're not even going to do the deer severity index, but Matt Radzilowski did call a lot of guides to find out how the fishing has been. Look, down here on the Detroit River, they're getting some good perch. Good perch, 14 inches, I'll say that's good, and pike very good, but bad ice in spots, so watch it. Ray at Mill Creek says bluegill fishing excellent in southern Michigan lakes. Perch good up to 13 inches. Now lakeside fishing, Lake St. Clair, perch once again excellent. Pike and crappie are fair, but caution, open water, bad ice. That's the problem for ice fishermen. Now at Saginaw River, 4 to 8 inches of ice, and on a river, that's not great shakes, but they do have good walleye fishing. They had 12 over 10 pounds caught last week. Check the west side of the state, Saugatuck, bluegill excellent, steelhead fair, and the rivers. And as we head farther north, the fishing remains good, but it's not red hot. Paramarquette Sports says 6 to 10 inches of ice. In the Ludington area, fair, although there is excellent pike fishing in Lake Mitchell, good fishing for gills and crappie. See over here, Saginaw Bay. There is ice on Saginaw Bay. We don't guarantee it minute to minute, but they are getting some limits of perch and walleye. Now we're getting up here into the fair territory for pike and walleye. Steelhead fishing good on the Au Sable River. Pat and Gary's in Indian River. Perch are good, walleye fair, sturgeon good, and Black Lake. In the UP, fishing, well, slow in Drummond Island, Muskong Bay, spotty for walleye over here at Marquette. 2 to 3 walleye per angler, pike good, perch spotty, bay Little Bay to Knock, Walleye Fair, all those excellent on Splake. And Scott's Superior and over here the west side of the UP, getting 2 to 3 pike per angler, perch and gills have been fair. Well, that wraps up the show for this week. Next week, Matt Radzilowski heads to our Sportsman's Workbench to show us how to make a tip-up alarm that makes a noise and shines a light rather than tripping a flag. And we'll reveal that big lake trout caught on our expedition to Rawhide Lake last summer using techniques available to any practical sportsman. In the meantime, get outdoors if you can. It's a great place to be. See you next week.
That's what hunting is. And bait enhances that. It does not affect the resource. Those who want to condemn baiting, those out there that will criticize baiting, those out there that would ban baiting, those out there that would restrict baiting, please take these words to heart. The best hunter, the most ethical hunter of all times, who fought so you and I would know what fair chase was, Fred Bear hunted over bait. He encouraged it, he condoned it, and he did it. So all of you who claim, and I've heard the testimony, those of you who claim that baiting is unsportsmanlike or unethical, you should be ashamed of yourself, because there's no one more sportsmanlike, and there's never been a more ethical hunter ever than Fred Bear. And if it was good enough for Fred Bear, my friends, it was good enough for all of us.